Lil Durk's legal situation has taken a serious and potentially career-defining turn. After months of legal maneuvering, emotional courtroom exchanges, and mounting public scrutiny, the Chicago rapper known for blending street authenticity with mainstream chart success has once again been denied bond. This comes despite what many saw as a promising third attempt at release, during which his father, Dante Banks Sr., made a rare and public statement praising the fairness of the hearing and the judge's willingness to weigh both sides carefully. But, just 4 days later, any optimism was dashed. The court's decision to deny bond a third time sent a clear message: this case isn't being handled like business as usual. Prosecutors are painting a stark picture of a man whose wealth and influence, once the very foundation of his music empire, have now become central to the state's argument that he poses a unique and serious threat to justice. The reasoning: money, power, and fear. The court expressed significant concern over Lil Durk's financial position, arguing that his considerable wealth makes him not just a flight risk, but a potential source of danger to witnesses. According to court documents and prosecutorial statements, there's an explicit fear that Durk's money could be used to either flee the jurisdiction or, more seriously, to obstruct justice through intimidation tactics. In a statement that stunned many observers, the prosecution suggested that Durk would essentially need to go broke and relinquish control of all assets before he could be reasonably considered for pretrial release. This isn't just about music money, this is about what the court perceives as influence, direct and indirect, over those involved in the case. The fear of bounties being placed on witnesses, whether grounded in evidence or inferred from Durk's affiliations and lyrical persona, has escalated the severity of the charges in the eyes of the court. Prosecutors cited past incidents and unspecified intelligence to argue that the combination of loyalty, access, and influence surrounding Durk makes him an unpredictable and potentially dangerous defendant. Too many fans. This is a hard pill to swallow. Durk has long portrayed himself as a survivor of the streets, a father, a businessman, and a leader who pulled himself and many others out of systemic poverty through grit, art, and vision. But to the court, those same qualities are being reframed as liability. The loyalty becomes potential leverage, the money becomes mobility, and the influence becomes fear. It's a stunning reversal for an artist at the top of his game. In just the past 2 years, Lil Durk has not only released chart-topping albums, but he's also built a brand that's increasingly mainstream. Collaborations with names like Drake, J. Cole, and Morgan Wallen have shown his ability to bridge genres and demographics. He's become a father figure in his label, OTF, Only the Family, and a respected voice in conversations about mental health and street reform. And yet, that duality, the rapper who made it out but still speaks for those who haven't, is part of what complicates his legal standing. The state sees his reach as more than symbolic. They argue it has real-world impact. The legal implications are chilling, not just for Durk, but for high-profile artists in similar positions. This case raises serious questions about how the courts interpret wealth and notoriety in criminal proceedings. Should a rapper's success be grounds for harsher scrutiny? Are fears of witness intimidation rooted in fact, or in stereotypes about hip-hop and the communities it reflects? Legal experts are divided. Some argue that the prosecution is leaning heavily into Durk's image as portrayed in his music, where themes of loyalty, violence, and survival are often explored to frame him as a threat. Others insist that the court has a responsibility to take every potential risk seriously, especially in high-stakes cases involving violent crime or gang affiliations. But what's undeniable is that Lil Durk's legal options are narrowing. With bond denied again, he now faces the possibility of being held in custody until trial, a process that could take months or even years. His legal team is expected to appeal the decision, possibly on constitutional grounds, arguing that the conditions for release are being set unreasonably high based on reputation rather than fact. Meanwhile, the public response has been polarizing. Supporters have launched hashtags like #FreeDurk and flooded his recent posts with messages of support. High-profile figures in the industry have reportedly reached out behind the scenes, some offering to post significant collateral to vouch for his release. On the other hand, critics argue that the justice system is finally holding powerful figures accountable. In their eyes, this isn't about rap or culture, it's about safety, law, and precedent. But even for those who haven't picked a side, the situation is deeply unsettling. One of hip-hop's most visible figures is sitting in a jail cell, not because he was denied fair treatment, but because his success has become a factor in determining his freedom. And perhaps that's the hardest part of all. The same empire Durk built to escape the streets is now being used against him in the courtroom, adding fuel to the fire. Reports surfaced that Ted, the brother of one of Durk's alleged close associates, was caught with a firearm and allegedly began offering information to police, crying and pleading while hinting at details about serious crimes. This revelation sparked rumors of snitching within Durk's circle, with fans mistakenly accusing others like Vanny. Durk's friend Bezu stepped in to deny the claims, insisting that only those in the courtroom know the truth and criticizing online speculation as the case unfolds. Durk now faces a federal murder-for-hire charge so serious that under federal law, the presumption is to deny bond. With the court unwilling to overlook the potential risks tied to his fortune, Durk's legal team faces an uphill battle to secure his release. Lil Durk's legal saga continues to spiral, as new developments raise serious concerns. The situation became even messier when DJ Academics addressed claims that Vanny, King Von's cousin and one of Durk's co-defendants, filed for protective custody, sparking rumors of him snitching. Academics emphasized the importance of reviewing actual court documents, not just trusting viral headlines. Meanwhile, the feds remain adamant that Durk poses a significant threat if released, suspecting he could place bounties on witnesses. Their fears grew after the reported death of Durk's associate Glee in Chicago and increasing rumors that people close to Durk have been silenced after allegedly cooperating with authorities. A key informant named Jam, previously close to Durk, and reportedly gifted $50,000 by him, is said to have flipped and provided over 230 gigabytes of evidence to the feds, including wiretaps, surveillance footage, and thousands of pages of documentation. It's believed that Durk may have paid to have two individuals dealt with, one being the man who allegedly got Durk's brother defanged, and the other being Jam's baby mother. After suspicions of Jam's cooperation surfaced, Durk apparently caught on early, distancing himself from people and not allowing anyone even close friends into his home. Footage from previous lives and interactions between Durk and Jam is now under federal review, as people seen with Durk are also connected to past violent crimes, including the murder of Lil Pab. The entire situation paints a picture of a deeply complex and high-stakes federal case, with betrayal, alleged retaliation, and years of surveillance all playing a role in what could be one of the biggest trials in hip-hop. What's up, boss? Let's get into it. Things just got real again. In Durk's case, Lil Durk is now being investigated in connection to the death of Stephen Max, and prosecutors presented an Instagram post Durk made for D-Thing just 30 minutes after Stephen was killed. To make it worse, Durk was seen laughing on Instagram Live the next day, which prosecutors argue reflects a lack of remorse or possible involvement. However, Durk's legal team just got a huge break. Prosecutors are backing away from a major allegation. They originally claimed Durk paid a bounty through one of his co-defendants. Now they're no longer making that accusation, suggesting they can't prove it. In a surprising pivot, the prosecution in Lil Durk's case is stepping back from one of its most controversial strategies, using his lyrics as evidence. For months, courtroom insiders and fans alike have speculated that prosecutors would rely heavily on Durk's music, particularly his lyrics, to draw connections between the rapper's public persona and the allegations now facing him in court. In an age where prosecutors across the country have increasingly blurred the line between art and alleged intent, this approach seemed almost inevitable. But according to Durk's defense attorney, high-profile criminal lawyer Drew Findling, the only new element added in the superseding indictment that formally named Durk was the inclusion of lyrics, and now, even that appears to be on unstable ground. If the lyrics are dismissed as inadmissible, the prosecution may not have much of a case left. This was the sole new fact introduced. Findling told reporters outside the courtroom, if they're no longer leaning on that, they're on thin ice. And in the legal world, that's not just bravado, it's a strategic turning point. The move signals that the state might be quietly acknowledging the constitutional risks involved in trying to treat artistic expression as criminal evidence. The shift is especially significant given recent legal and cultural debates about the use of rap lyrics in courtrooms. Across the country, from New York to Georgia to California, artists and civil rights advocates have rallied around the belief that lyrics should be protected speech under the First Amendment. The argument is simple, yet profound. Rap is an art form. Like novels, films, or poetry, it often uses hyperbole, metaphor, and narrative fiction to express pain, trauma, aspiration, and identity. It's not a diary. It's not a deposition. It's art. Durk's legal team is making that exact argument, and they're willing to take it to trial. Sources close to the case say Durk and his lawyers have no intention of negotiating a plea deal unless it guarantees his complete exoneration. No reduced time. No partial guilt. Nothing short of full freedom. He's not going to admit to something he didn't do, one team member stated. And he's not going to let his lyrics be weaponized against him. It's a bold strategy, but one that's gaining traction beyond just Durk's camp. High-profile artists and legal watchdogs have raised alarms about the trend of prosecutors treating hip-hop lyrics as literal evidence of criminal intent, a standard not applied to other genres. No one assumes an actor is confessing to murder because they played a killer on screen. No one takes a novelist's plotline as a roadmap for real-life violence. So why is that leap made in rap? Critics argue the answer lies in a dangerous mix of racism, classism, and cultural bias, where the creative expressions of young black men are presumed to be autobiographical and incriminating. For Durk, whose lyrics often draw from real life, hardship, and street survival, that presumption can mean the difference between freedom and conviction. This case could become a watershed moment in how courts treat creative expression. If Durk's team successfully pushes back against the use of lyrics in court, it could help establish broader legal protections for other artists caught in similar situations. Already, legal precedent is beginning to lean in that direction. States like California have passed legislation limiting the use of creative works in criminal trials, requiring prosecutors to demonstrate a clear and direct link between the art and the alleged crime. But even with that momentum, Durk's path forward is fraught. The stakes are immense, not just for his personal freedom, but for the wider fight over artistic expression in an increasingly surveilled and scrutinized music industry. Still, one thing is clear: Durk isn't backing down. He's ready to fight not just for himself, but for the principle that his words, his stories, and his pain are not confessions, they're compositions. And in this courtroom battle, the First Amendment may prove to be his strongest defense. Drew also mentioned how prosecutors have targeted hip-hop uniquely, using lyrics in ways they wouldn't against other genres. With that, and the weakening case, many legal experts believe Durk could walk, just like Young Thug, who, despite serious RICO charges and lyrics used against him, eventually walked out on time served. All signs point to Durk fighting this to the end and possibly winning. Durk's legal situation is growing more intense by the day. And now the pressure is shifting from inside the courtroom to those around him. Durk's attorney made a strong case that prosecutors are completely misreading the cultural context of rap. He explained that one of the songs used as evidence was actually released months before the crime it supposedly relates to, and emphasized that lyrics can mean many things within hip-hop culture. He pointed out that prosecutors often view lyrics as literal confessions when in reality, they're artistic, metaphorical, or tied to performance, not real-life admissions. But while Durk's lawyers fight that angle, the feds are playing their own strategy. Reports now claim prosecutors delayed Durk's bond hearing to gather last-minute evidence. And courtroom chatter is pointing to a new potential informant, Brick Baby. He was arrested the same week as the delay in Durk's case, as part of a rolling 60s gang takedown alongside Big U and Loose Cannon. Lawyers are speculating the feds are applying pressure on Brick Baby to flip on Durk, especially because Brick Baby himself hinted at Durk's connection to Lil Pab's death in an interview from 3 years ago. In that clip, Brick Baby held back from saying too much but heavily implied that Durk might have been behind the hit. To make it worse, there are lyrics from Durk that have now surfaced with lines like, "Told me they got an Addy, go." This aligns disturbingly close with a quote from Brick Baby where he says he would have dropped a location for Durk if asked, saying, "If he make the call right now, I up." Now with Brick Baby in federal custody and facing serious gang-related charges, prosecutors may use that pressure to make him cooperate, and Durk's name is right at the top of that list. So while Durk's defense is attacking the rap lyric angle and gaining some ground, the feds are working a totally different route, flipping people close to him, one by one. The entire case now hinges not just on what's in the lyrics, but who's willing to talk. Stay tuned. This next hearing could decide everything.